All right. Good morning, CBGR. Thank you for attending. I hope everybody's having a nice Friday morning, rainy morning. Today we have Via Inspections LLC, and he's going to be going over the A to Z on commercial inspections for those of you that are engaging in commercial real estate or wish to engage in real estate. He's going to give you some valuable information and tools on what to expect and what to do in terms of a commercial inspection. Without further ado, Tony, if you want to take the floor.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ruben, for inviting me to come over here. It's always fun to get out here in person and see people face to face, but in Zoom as well. Hi. We got 22. 22. Okay, perfect. So today we're going to cover the basics of commercial inspections for realtors. And just by show of hands, I don't know if you can do it online, but how many people are new to commercial real estate? Okay, good. That's more or less what I geared this talk about. So you can have some idea if you're going to get into commercial real estate, what to expect. So my name is Tony. I'm the owner of Villa Property Inspections. We're based in Claremont. We've been in business for 24 years. I've been a licensed general contractor for 23 of those 24 years. I am a certified commercial inspector with the CCPIA and with NACHI, and I'll dive a little more into those two organizations in a little while and why they're important. I'm also an ICC certified residential and commercial inspector. What that means is I have the same qualifications as your local building inspector from the city. I'm a NACHI certified home inspector as well. And I am part of California Office of Emergency Services post-disaster structural inspector. So after earthquakes, fires, things like that, they have a list of people that they can call on to go evaluate houses. I don't know if you remember the big windstorm that we had about 10 years ago. I was out there evaluating houses at the city of Pasadena and checking which ones have been damaged and which ones are still livable. And I've done roughly about 9,000 inspections myself.
Wow. So you do the inspection, not the work?
No, we're inspection only. What we do, obviously we do home inspections. We do single family residence. We do multifamily apartment building inspections, and 1 to 4s are typically still considered residential, as you know, particularly because of lending, and 5 and above is considered commercial. Commercial inspections, of course, that's what we're talking about today. We do sewer camera inspections, mold inspections, thermal imaging, moisture detection, foundation inspections. We do that as a standalone. A foundation inspection comes with every inspection that we do, but some people call specifically for a structural evaluation. Pre-listing inspections, and one that most people don't know that we do, but if you're getting my emails, you probably saw I sent an email about this earlier this week. We also do 3D Matterport tours if you have a listing. Yeah, we started that during the pandemic when agents couldn't get into houses, so we're trying to help out for agents that needed to get inside.
That's exterior only?
Interior, the Matterport. Yeah, we could do some exterior, but it's primarily for the interior. So this is our team. That's myself. Those are my inspectors right there. That's Lauren, really nice guy, bodybuilder on the side. Tony is extremely detailed. Josh is our people person. He knows how to talk to people when they're really worked up. And nothing happens without these 2 young ladies right here. They're the ones who keep us safe. They're angels. So these are some of the commercial buildings that we've inspected just recently. This is in La Crescenta, the pet hospital. And this one is in Cerritos. It's a medical building in Cerritos. This one we did pro bono. It's in Los Angeles. It is to be used as a battered women's home. And then this one's another medical building. If you're here in San Gabriel Valley, you might recognize it. It's in Glendora off of Foothill. Keeping up with the trends. If you're new to commercial real estate, it's really, really important that you keep up with the trends. I keep up with the trends. I keep up with this. This is from NAR. I keep up with this on a regular basis. It gets emailed to me, and I keep up with the Mortgage Bankers Association numbers. And so as of February, end of February, right now, industrial spaces in Los Angeles has 3% and lower vacancy right now. Wow. Industrial is hot right now in Los Angeles. Rents have gone up. It slowed down a little bit, but that is one of the lowest in the nation for this type of space.
Why do you think?
It's mostly industrial and logistics spaces that are supply chain. Exactly. Yeah. Office spaces sadly have declined quite a bit. Net absorption is really bad right now for office spaces because there's a lot of people who are working from home. So yeah, that declined quite a bit. But net absorption rates are still double pre-pandemic rates, even though they've fallen in the last couple of months, in the last quarter. Retail spaces, particularly in the Inland Empire, have the highest gains, rent gains right now, and net absorption. So Inland Empire right now is hot as far as commercial real estate goes. Now, I keep up with this because we do commercial inspections, so I want to stay on top of who's doing what and where, so that we know where to put our resources. Now, that's a good transition to this as a gift to you. Thank you so much for being here this morning. If you go to this website right here, scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a free download of commercial real estate terms. So if you're getting into real estate, even if you are in real estate already, in commercial real estate, it's a good reference to have. You can put it on your phone, on your laptop, on your tablet, and look up some of the terms. I still look up some of the terms when I'm reading other people's reports.
Tony?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I can't see the projection screen. I'm on Zoom. So we can't see what you're projecting.
Is it this one?
No, we don't see it. The screen, we don't see it.
But you're able to see the PowerPoint, right?
No, none of it. It's slightly, that's what we see. I think whatever you have laptop, you have to turn it slightly towards the screen.
How about there?
No, not at all. I don't see anything on the screen. Yeah.
Does anybody see anything?
Very little.
I do. I can see
I
it.
do.
I can
I
see.
do.
Oh,
I
wow.
can see it.
I do too. I do.
It's
Okay,
probably on your end.
I
So
can see
Krishna-
it and I'm on Zoom.
Okay.
Krishna,
Yeah,
I
looks
think
like
it has to
everybody
do
can
with, it has to do with your settings, Krishna.
Okay. So, all right. Sorry about that. I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. So today we're going to go through the types of commercial properties, the types of construction and use, which is very important because if you're working with a particular client who's looking for space, commercial space for a certain type of business, you want to make sure that you're looking for the certain type of construction of buildings that will fit that type of use. For example, if you have manufacturing that has chemicals, you don't want it to be in a wood frame building. Yeah, you want it to be in and I'm going to go over all the different types really quickly right now, a particular type of building. So you should try to get familiar, and I can send you all the slides after this, familiar with all the different types. The types of inspections, there's different types of commercial inspections, depending on the use of what information the client is looking for. Terms you should know. Again, you have that glossary right there, but I'm going to go over some stuff right now as well. And then, once you have all of this, what do you do after the inspection? And then I'll open it up to Q&A. So, type of commercial buildings. Now, the first one here, I don't necessarily agree with too much, the duplex, triplex, quads. That's more of a multifamily residential, not so much commercial. 5 and above is usually considered commercial. Yeah, the mid-rise apartments, 3-4 story apartment structures. We see a lot of that here in Alhambra. High-rise apartments, student housing, senior housing and assisted living. You also have offices, commercially zoned homes, medical offices, and suburban. This is one that I see. I live in Claremont, and we have a lot of this suburban office buildings. You have the dentist, the small medical practices, marriage and family counseling, that kind of stuff. You'll see that in suburban areas. Then you have the big, and this is what we were talking about a second ago about industrial. That industrial is really hot right now in Los Angeles and in the Inland Empire. Everything from manufacturing to light assembly, refrigeration, showroom, storage, a little bit of everything. Fontana is super, super hot right now when it comes to commercial. As a matter of fact, they had a lawsuit. I don't know if you heard about this. I think it was last year because they were allowing too many commercial projects to be built in the city of Fontana.
Let's just say, okay, what about Ontario also?
Ontario also, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a warehouse that is running too fast.
Yeah,
And people complaining.
yeah.
There have some ordinances restricting the proliferation of warehouses.
Of warehouses,
Montana and Ontario.
They have to have some residential areas, yeah. Irwindale, when I was living in Covina, Irwindale was very much like that.
Mhm.
Mostly commercial space. There's only a handful of residential areas in Irwindale. Then we have retail. Retail, like I said, in the Inland Empire right now is moving really well. Very low vacancy rate in retail spaces. Those are the shopping centers, the strip malls, convenience stores, that kind of stuff. And then hospitality, of course, you have the low budget motels, you have the extended stays, the big hotels. Those are very unique transactions when you do come across them. So the types of commercial construction, and again, you want to know this depending on who your client is, whether your client is selling or your client is buying. If they're buying and they have they need a warehouse space for clothing, for example, you want to make sure that you put them in the right kind of building and that you're looking for the right kind of building. So type 1 construction is the highest fire resistant. This is what you see in high-rise buildings. All of the framing here, all of the steel framing that you see right here is all coated before it's covered with a fire-resistant material. All of these platforms are concrete. Everything that's built inside, all of the framing inside is steel. All of the stairwells have self-closing fire doors and stuff like that. So this is where you're going to see primarily high-rise buildings. You're going to see medical offices, business offices, condominiums, and again, the highest fire resistance. Now, type 2 is a little bit less fire resistant, but primarily still concrete and steel framing. This is where if you wanted like the clothing manufacturing that I was talking about, if you wanted to put them in there, you would put them in this type of building. This is a warehouse type of building. Not very combustible at all. But what people don't know in clothing manufacturing is that it kicks up quite a bit of dust, of that fine dust when you're cutting the material, and that fine dust is combustible, and it can combust really, really easily and cause an explosion, basically. So you want to put them in something like this. Warehouse, it's used for industrial applications, manufacturing. Some small offices, typically built in just for admin people, but the majority of the building is steel framed or concrete framed. Type 3, this is where you see all the local strip malls, and we've done a lot of these lately. And this is You're gonna have some concrete, it's a combination, some concrete block walls on the exteriors. Pretty much everything else is framed with wood. The roof structure, the walls inside, everything is done with wood. These are retail spaces, not very likely to have any combustible applications or any kind of manufacturing or chemicals inside. Yeah, typically 1 or 2 stories max is what you're gonna see. There's quite a few of them here in San Gabriel, 2-story strip malls. These we come across a lot with lease inspections where a tenant is looking for a particular space, and you might be dealing with somebody who's looking for space to lease. And it's important to get a inspection when they're leasing as well, particularly if it's a single tenant building and they're leasing the entire building. And they have a triple net lease where they're going to be paying for all of the maintenance and all of the repairs and replacement of all the major systems. So that's why it's important to get a inspection at that point. Type 4 is not very common at all. You likely won't run into too much of that. Back east, there's still quite a few of these. This is heavy timber. And you're going to see this in some of the old factories. Downtown LA still has a few of them. I saw a lot of these in Boston when I was there last year. Old warehouses, churches, you'll see a lot of this heavy timber. It has very little to any fire resistance at all. And this is why primarily they're not used for commercial use anymore, or very little commercial use. It's also the hardest to insure. I've had a couple of clients who were looking into this, an insurance company, or especially for fire insurance, they don't want to touch it. Type 5 construction, this is typical residential construction. This is your house, basically. House, apartment buildings are typically type 5 construction. All wood framing, pretty much all wood framing. Typical residential construction. Multifamily, mostly wood frame. Very little, I mean, I shouldn't say very little fire resistance. There are different ways that they make houses and apartments fire resistant, depending on the amount of square footage. For example, in an apartment building, if it's over 10,000 square feet, they actually split the building down the middle. So if you've ever been in an apartment building, even an office building, where you're walking down the hallway, there's a door that you have to push open to get through the other side of the building. That's why. It's to prevent fire, if there's a fire here, from spreading down the hallway all the way across to the other side of the building.
Containment.
What's that?
Containment.
Containment, yeah, and the stairwells as well. So ASTM, and they are very big in the commercial industry, and I'll tell you why. ASTM was formerly known as the American Society for Testing and Materials. They test all kinds of materials, everything from lumber to drywall to these panels here to the carpet, even the fabric that is on the furniture. They test it for what's called fire spread, how quickly it combusts, how fast it burns, how much smoke it makes, how fast the smoke spreads. And they have standards that they publish for all of these things. Back in probably about a little over 2000, there was no standards for inspection for commercial buildings. Pretty much everybody did whatever they felt like doing. And so ASTM, being the biggest organization worldwide for this kind of stuff, they created a standard. It was called it was originally in 2016, and it got updated, and then it got updated again. That's why you have the -15. And this is a standard. It's a very strict standard for inspecting commercial properties. Quick question. Never mind. I actually put the answer up right there. So a PCA is a property condition assessment. So quick question. Who can tell me what a PCA is? You get one of these. Yeah, what is it?
He just told you.
Yeah, no, but what is the actual assessment?
The actual.
Inspection?
condition Before.
Yeah. What's that?
Condition before repair time.
Yes and no. Go ahead.
It's pretty much like, well, I would say it's pretty much like an inspection type of thing, so that the person who actually, the buyer or the leaser will have some idea what needs to be done before they commit themselves into a.
Correct. I'm gonna give you this here. There's a little more to that answer. That's about half of the answer. Once the PCA is done, then there's a property condition report that's done. Typically, when you do an inspection or a PCA, it's for a large complex, a large building. You're talking major, office building, medical building, things like that, where people are spending millions and millions of dollars. They want to know every last detail about this building. And I'll go into the details of what each one of these does. So if you're buying it, when this happened, they left a hole on the industry basically for people who are buying smaller commercial buildings who don't need a complete PCA. That's really extensive and really expensive. The report and the whole process is really expensive. It takes a lot of time. So for people who are buying smaller buildings, we had the CCPIA, and this is the Certified Commercial Property Inspectors Association. So CCPIA is a sister organization to Matching. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask you the origin, but I think this helps. What is the limit? I mean, like you mentioned, I'm sorry, what's the name before? The ATM?
ASTM?
ASTM.
Huh?
When do you apply? I mean, like, what's the limit of the property to do that? I'm like, is
In
it
my
required all the time?
In my experience, it's not required. None of these are actually required. But if you're looking at selling, $5-10 million building, I guarantee you the buyer and the investors are gonna want a PCA.
For example, if you want to buy Morongo. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna-
What is 5 million, 10 million is relative to the
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
So what is the limit? So if the limit is the price or the square footage?
Price, square footage, and the type of investor. I've worked with a few investors who, on multifamily, we inspected 16 properties, 20 apartment buildings, over 300 units, and we did in 6 days because they needed it in a hurry. They were not looking for a complete PCA. And I'll tell you what the PCA is right now. They were looking for this type of inspection. They wanted to know what the major systems of the building were, what condition they were in, where the biggest potholes were going to be as far as spending money. So these standards pertain primarily to the physical condition of the building. Now, the PCA goes beyond that, and I'll explain that right now. So they came up with the commercial standards of inspection, or what we refer to as CONSOP. And this is primarily for, like I said, the physical conditions of the inspection of the building itself. What's the roof look like? What's the electrical system look like? The plumbing, electrical systems, what's the structure look like, the foundation? That's it. The PCA goes a bit further, but this applies really well to smaller buildings. Smaller investors don't want to spend and don't need all of the additional information. They just want to know the condition of the building itself. Now, where it differs from ASTM, this is a property inspection, which would fall under the concept that I just went through. So the property inspection, we go by CCPIA standards. We do, depending on the size of the building, this happened to be an 8-unit building in Long Beach that we did. It's going to be 1 inspector, 2 inspectors. The one that I'm going to do right after this in Silver Lake is 8 units. So I'm going to have one of my inspectors meet me there, and we'll do it together. Sometimes you need specialty contractors. If it has a very complicated electrical system, HVAC system, it's best to bring in a specialty contractor to look at just that particular space. And the same thing holds true for big commercial buildings like this. On a big commercial buildings like this, I would probably, and I'll show you the pictures of that medical building. the HVAC systems on the roof were this tall. It literally had a door. You could walk inside. And so that's how big the systems were. So we brought in specialty contractors, HVAC contractors, just for that. Go ahead.
Yeah, in a big commercial building, type of building, like high rise or
Mhm.
big ones. What is the most common deal breaker in terms of the report of inspection?
Deal breaker is when I get into the PCA, I'll talk about it, but it's typically age. Age of major systems and eventual replacement costs. If you're looking at a roof that's gonna cost you $85,000 and it's very much at the end of its useful life, that's an immediate expense that the new buyer would have unless they can negotiate with the seller. Same thing with those huge air conditioning systems that I'm telling you about. You're looking $65,000-$75,000 per unit. If they're 25, 30 years old, they haven't been maintained very well. Those are typically the things that cause a lot of negotiation and sometimes become deal killers.
And also like hospital, you have a system that would generate electricity when power's out.
Generators,
That
yes,
stuff gotta be checked out 100%.
backup
A
generators.
lot of money, so therefore, that's part of the
Yeah.
thing you negotiate with the seller.
Yep.
But to-
Yeah, and you actually take account for those things happening in the PCA, and I'll go over that right now. So we inspect all the major systems. Now, some investors are okay with inspecting, like this was 8 units, with inspecting half of them. Just to get a representative sampling of what the building looks like. I always recommend inspecting every unit in residential because it's that one unit that you don't inspect that's gonna have the mold and the plumbing problems and the tenant that's gonna be a problem and it's never gonna leave and it's gonna sue you. So on residential, at least, I always recommend inspecting every single unit because it gives the owner a baseline when they take possession of what the condition of the entire property is. And documentation also. Triple net lease, we get this a lot. Like I said, the little strip malls where it's one unit, it's a triple net lease or the single tenant structure. We get a lot of this type of inspection. They don't really need much more than the condition of the property is what they want to look at. It's a baseline inspection for the lessor as well. Sometimes the owner actually asks for the inspection before they lease it, so they can have a documented baseline of what the condition of the building was before they leased it out. And on this type of building, we have a service called Repair Pricer Cost Estimate, and it's a report. And it's a third-party independent service that will take our report and create an actual cost estimate for everything that needs to be done on the report. And most customers find that very useful, especially when we're doing a lease. So.
What do you mean by special inspector?
Special inspectors are more like this. This is one that I did in Cerritos. This is the AC unit that I was talking about. You can literally walk inside that AC unit, standing up. And so we brought a specialty, an HVAC contractor that specializes in commercial HVAC to do the inspection on that. So property condition assessment. Now, this is for like this type of building here. A much bigger building. The investors are dropping millions and millions of dollars. They want to know not just the condition, but they want to know a few other things. So they're going to have a typical PCA is going to have the description of the property, everything down to the parking lot. How many spaces, what kind of drainage, just everything. This is where it gets a little more involved, is that we request and we review maintenance records from the management. We want to know what the maintenance, and they're going to want to know what the maintenance of the building is. What is it that they're spending more money on that, you know, that's a problem, a consistent problem. So they want to look at all of the records for maintenance. On occasion, we research municipal records for permits, depending on what type of tenant improvements the tenants have done. And whether there was permits, whether they opened up a wall, had one in downtown LA where they leased this space, but then they leased the next space over. It's a brick building. And they opened up a door between the two, a huge door. And they never got a permit for it. And so they had to bring a contractor in and evaluate, make sure that structurally it was gonna be fine and all that. Sometimes we need to interview the maintenance staff, and sometimes the maintenance staff is not available, or sometimes they're available during the actual walkthrough. All of this stuff is done before we even step foot on the property. Interview property management staff, sometimes they're not available, so they do a survey, and we'll send them a survey and they can fill out all of the information about the property. It's a lengthy survey, and that's going to be part of our report to the client at the end. So the site visit observation is the actual inspection. And it goes very similar to what we just saw about the CCTIA. We're going to look at all the major systems, the roof, the plumbing, the electrical, go through all of that stuff. But armed with all of this information beforehand, now we know, okay, they did maintenance where, you know, on this section of the roof right here, where you can see it's been patched already. This section of the roof has some problems right there. So that probably would have shown up on the maintenance records. And we know that ahead of time, so we can take a closer look. This is where we were just talking about this, where it differs from a regular inspection, in that we actually estimate what the remaining life of the major systems are. HVAC systems, and we'll go into life expectancies right now, but HVAC systems are going to last roughly about 30 years. So if we get there and we realize the HVAC system is about 30 years old, then we're actually going to make calculations. It's going to be a spreadsheet saying, hey, your roof is about 20 years old. We can see that they've done some patchwork here. Average age of this particular type of roof is about 30. So you've got maybe about 10 years left on it. So we're going to create a spreadsheet going 10 years out with the increases for inflation at about 2 to 3% per year. So we're going to calculate what inflation would be like 10 years from now, and give you a number of approximately how much it's going to cost 10 years from now to replace that roof.
You also give the current cost too?
We can, yeah, we can. What we do typically for current cost is anything that needs immediate repair. For example, if there's that one area right there on the roof that it has been patched, or it looks like there's some water puddling right there, it's going to need some work. We can give costs for immediate repairs and then the estimates for future replacement. This is where a PCA differs a lot from a regular physical inspection. Yeah, predicted capital replacement costs. HVAC, roof, plumbing system, electrical system, things like that. Even things like the asphalt in the parking lot. Hey, the asphalt's going to need to be resealed and probably replaced within like 10, 12 years, going to have to be replaced. And so we're going to predict 10, 12 years from now, how much it's going to cost, including inflation at that time. So terms you should know. And this is where it's going to get fun. I've got one of these already here. All right, let's see who can answer this. What do you call this? All right, I've got some of these. HVAC condenser, close.
Furnace,
What's that? On Zoom?
furnace.
Close. It's not. And the reason why I bring this up is because these are things, if you are representing a seller or if you're representing a buyer who's looking for a particular type of building, they're going to want to know what type of systems are in there.
That's not swamp cooler, is it?
No, this is called a package unit. So you're going to want to know that it's called a package unit, because when you're looking at listings for your particular buyer, and the listing says package unit, you need to be able to tell your client what a package unit is.
Oh, wow.
And so it
Yes.
consists of the AC unit and the heater.
And the heat all together. So the AC unit is right here. The furnace side is on this side here. Everything is here. And everything blows downward into the building. So this is called a package unit. So you're gonna wanna know.
So you know what I didn't know. So I went to t-shirt.
No. Yeah. It is technically a condenser and technically a furnace, but it's both. It's both. So, all right, I got another one. Let's see who can tell me this one.
Air conditioning.
All right, this is more typical to what you see in a house.
Oh.
Yeah, but you see them.
Storage unit and AC.
Storage unit.
Separate.
Separate units, one is the condenser, the other one the heater.
You're close, but you already won one, so
Water
It's,
heater.
it's a condenser and a furnace.
it's a condenser and a furnace. Who said that?
Hi, me, Krishna.
Krishna, okay. Krishna, you win the t-shirt.
Thank you.
I mean, just tell me later what size you are and I'll make sure you get one.
Okay, I'm a small.
Okay. Yeah, so it is called a split system. It's because it's split. You have the condenser, which usually sits outside, like you do in a house. This will usually be inside the garage, inside the attic, places like that. But you do see these in commercial buildings as well. Now, there's two types of split systems. There is a gas and a heat pump. A heat pump is a all electric. And this particular unit is a heat pump. And the way I could tell that it's a heat pump is that there's nowhere for a gas line to come in. And there's nowhere for a vent pipe to come out for the combustion gases. So this is all electric right here. Again, terms that you're going to want to know. I have a video, a blog, and another class that's coming out, particularly on all of those terms, on things that you should know. One more. All right, who can tell me what this is?
The heater.
Wine cooler.
It's a heater, yes, yes. You get one of these for your glove compartment. All right. So this is how you would typically see it in a commercial application. It's going to be hanging inside a warehouse right here. And it is a heater. It's a hanging gas furnace. This is what you would typically see inside the warehouse space. Now, in the office space in that building, you're probably going to have a split system like the one that we just saw. Or a package unit up on the roof that feeds the office system. But out in the warehouse space, this is what you're going to see. Yes.
For that size of heater, how big is that warehouse?
It depends. They all have different ratings. This rating sticker right here will tell you how many BTUs you need per square feet.
And also you may
So
have one or two.
You might have one, you might have two. And it also depends on the type of construction of the building. If you have a steel building that has no insulation, it's probably going to be working really hard. You're probably going to need more than one.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that structure you have there in the picture is
That's a steel
too
building.
small
Yeah,
for the whole.
yeah, that's a steel building.
Where do you use that, Tony?
In
The
warehouse-
hanging gas furnace or warehouse?
in warehouses is typically where you're going to see it. Yeah.
Okay,
But again, these are the things that your client is going to want to know if they're looking for a particular building for particular use, manufacturing, storage, stuff like that, where you're actually going to have workers in the warehouse. They're probably going to want to know if there's some kind of heating in the warehouse area.
Is
Yes.
it, what do you need to check first when you package it?
Something like the one that we just saw, we'd be looking for the connections to make sure that structurally it's okay. And it's not gonna fall. We're looking at the electrical connections, we're looking at the gas connections. Of course, we're gonna fire it up. We're looking for the age,
If we do the visual impact,
the visual inspection. What's that?
if we, the agent, do the visual inspection.
Oh, yeah.
What should I look for?
You would probably wanna know the age first.
The building
How
age?
old is it? Because after a certain amount of years, the heat exchanger inside, and that's what creates all the heat that gets blown into the unit, starts rusting.
What's the
And
limit?
once it rusts, then those combustion gases, which is carbon monoxide, can spill into the system. So if it's an old unit, even if it still fires up, you still want to consider having somebody take a look at the heat exchanger inside to make sure it's still good,
Like that.
like, like that, yeah,
How
exactly.
old is what's the-
About 25 to 30 years. We're gonna go into the life expectancies right now for all of the systems. So, this one, I don't think anybody's gonna get. It's hard to tell, so I'm just gonna tell you, this is very important for commercial transactions.
Waterproofing.
A roof. This is a roof. This is a very particular type of roof, and there's three main types to commercial roofs. This has,
Slats.
this one's called EPDM. It's a rubber, basically. It's a rubber material. So this is mid-grade for the three types of roofing materials. You have the traditional asphalt roofing that you see on houses. Well, they do it with rolled roofing on commercial applications like this. So think of the asphalt composition as the Honda of roofing. An EPDM might be, an Audi or a Acura or something like that. So, yeah,
I'll be.
yeah. Now, your Mercedes is
There
this.
you go.
Okay, this is your Mercedes. If you find this on a listing, your client is going to want to know that because this is a huge plus. This is called TPO, thermoplastic polyethylene. It's a vinyl-like material, similar to the pool liners that they use. It's that kind of material. Holds up really well. It's considered a cool roof because it's white. And so it reflects heat. It reflects heat. It lasts a long time. It needs very little maintenance. So if you're working with a particular client and they're building, either they're selling and they have a TPO roof, this is something you want to advertise. If you're working with a buyer and you come across a place that has a TPO roof, this is something you're going to want to point out to your client as well.
That's not rolled, it's always in sheets.
It's rolled.
Oh, it's rolled.
Yeah, this is a
Okay.
sheet right here that they're putting for that application. That platform right there is very likely where the HVACs are going to go. Yeah, it's rolled, it's glued down, similar to the EPDM on the side. The seams get glued down. And so when they have to, the beauty of this, when they have to do patchwork to a TPO roof, it's like, I don't know if you remember those old tire repair kits that come with a little patch. And you glue them down onto the tire and you put it back in.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. They glue down a patch on it whenever there's damage to it and you're done.
How long does it last? TBO.
We're gonna get into that right now. So, yeah, like I said, I have some upcoming blog posts about all of this stuff. Detailing out with pictures, all of these things and life expectancies and a couple of videos as well. So lifespans, this is another thing that you're gonna wanna know, because when you're looking at a building for your client, if the roof, after the inspection, you come to find out that your EPDM roof lifespan is about 20, maximum about 30 years, depending on maintenance, if you're providing regular maintenance to it. But if you're looking that it's already 20, 25 years old, even on an EPDM roof, your client's going to want to know that because realistically, it's going to have to be replaced soon. TPO, the answer to TPO, I disagree with this number. 15 to 25 years. I've seen TPO roofs that have been out there much longer and look really well still.
Is there a cost effectiveness to TPO or is it more expensive?
It's about the same as an EPDM roof. Both of them are a little more expensive than an asphalt roof. So roof life expectancies, and this is the blog that I'm going to be putting out next week, and all of these charts are going to be on there. So I'll make sure that you get, I'll get the email. And it gives you the lifespan. Rolled roofing, only about 8 years. Spray polyurethane foam, you don't see that very often. I've ran across it a couple of times on commercial applications where they actually spray it down with this foam material and it gets really hard. It looks like snow, basically. PVC, metal, here's the EPDM, 23 years, built up asphalt shingles. This is all residential stuff here. Roof flashings. Flashings, the connections, like the one that you just saw on the TPO where they're putting that stuff up there, those are all considered flashings. The pipe boots is where the pipe comes through the roof for ventilation for the plumbing. It has a connector in the bottom right there, and that's called a boot. Skylights, I'm not a big fan of skylights. Oops, sorry. I don't think I can go back here, but I'm not a big fan of skylights. They're, I'd say probably 80% of the time when I see a skylight, even in residential or commercial, it's damaged, it's leaking. It's problematic. I get it. It's great for energy efficiency because you get all that light coming in. But in commercial applications, most of the time after rain, you go to some of these places that have skylights like IKEA, places like that, you're gonna find buckets out of it. Pipe life expectancy. ABS is what you see primarily on residential. On commercial, you're still gonna find cast iron and galvanized because of the fire resistance. So buildings like this, if I go downstairs, I'm probably gonna see cast iron pipes down there. You're not gonna find the plastic pipes. See, PVC is a PVC, kind of like what they use for your sprinklers, but it's made to carry hot water.
ABS is the black pipe, right?
The black pipe, yes. PEX right here, polyethylene is new or newer in residential applications. It's a flexible plastic material. You'll see the pipes are red. One is red, one is blue. Very easy to install, a lot less expensive than installing copper. And then these are some of the things that we take into consideration for commercials when we do a PCA. What's the expectancy of the driveway? Do you think building requirements
Oh, you want to see that?
might change for fire resistant material due to all the major fires? Yes, they actually already have. If you look at, depending on where you're located, AB 38, there's one of the pages on my website dictates or tells you everything that AB 38 requires. Any house that's located in a fire zone, which is pretty much everything in the foothills, all the way across here, coming down into Claremont, some of the local cities right here. There's certain requirements when you sell a home that you have to tell the new buyer that there's fire requirements and there has to be an inspection as to home hardening, how to prevent forest fires from catching their houses on fire. So yeah, some of those changes already happened.
There's one other.
Nowadays, do they use PEX for sewer as well? I have never seen PEX on a sewer. So, yeah.
And then there's one for skylight right here.
Yes, energy codes are going to change soon. I'm sure you probably already heard that City of LA is going to require all new homes to be electric or no gas appliances. Soon. Those are the new energy codes that are coming down.
What does soon mean?
It's going to be right now. Most cities are in the process of adopting the 2022 ICC codes. ICC is the organization that writes all the building codes, the International Code Council. And all of those get adopted by the state first. And then the state trickles them down to all the local municipalities. Now, the local municipalities can make the code more restrictive. They can't make it less restrictive. So depending on the city, they can actually make it a little more the requirements a little tighter as well. So in answer to that question, yes, there are some new energy codes that are coming probably within the next couple of years. And new construction over a certain square footage is going to require solar panels.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for residential.
My son got
Yes.
a house and
It requires solar.
you couldn't use.
ADUs.
Yeah.
ADUs, if you're building an ADU in your house, certain cities are requiring solar panels on the ADUs.
And
Yeah.
just-
The city of Valley or the unincorporated valley of county?
County, yeah, everybody's gonna make it a little different, because it starts at the state, and the state sets the state
border.
code. And then the counties are gonna adopt it than the local municipalities, and as it starts trickling down, everybody's gonna make it just a little bit different.
It's gonna get tighter down the road.
Tighter and
Well,
tighter,
restrictive
yes,
down the road.
Well, the state is gonna be, what they're pushing is electrification.
yes,
Even right now, like if you live in the city of Pasadena and you have a gas stove.
Yep.
You buy an all electric stove, they'll give you a rebate for that.
yes.
So they're pushing that heavily.
It's funny because in the 1960s, I have a picture somewhere on my website, an article that I wrote. In the 1950s and 60s, I still had the ads where they were promoting
Yes.
all electric
Oh.
houses. And they would have a little gold medallion that would be on the front door. And I still see those once in a while, and they were pushing for all electric, but they didn't have the infrastructure that we have now.
Right.
We have a bigger infrastructure. We have solar now. So it's a lot easier to make a house all electric than it was in the 50s and 60s.
Medallion. yeah.
So-
You actually think that electric is more efficient than gas?
Yes.
This
Yes.
is a fact?
Eh,
Depends.
It's kind of out there, yes.
Yeah.
Pasadena built, I don't know exact number, because they still don't know how many homes were all electric. They tried that, but what they discovered, it was more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more expensive, like I said. Back when all of these things happened, we didn't have the infrastructure that we do now. We didn't have solar, we didn't take into account solar and battery packs for solar.
Yeah.
But,
And things like that. So yes, it did get to be more expensive. Yeah.
but are they taking into consideration the supply and demand once it all goes shifts to electric? Because now the demand is gonna be more heavily on
It's gonna be
electric,
more heavily on electric.
and then boom, your
And
prices are
I don't
gonna
know
go.
if you've heard this recently, but the utility commission voted to reduce based on heavy lobbying from Southern California Edison to reduce the amount of money that Edison pays for people who have solar panels. When you have solar panels on your house, if you're producing more electricity than you're using, you can sell your electricity back to Edison. Edison was paying X amount of dollars per kilowatt that you were selling back to them. They lobbied and got that reduced to almost half now, because they're realizing that as more solar comes online, they still have to pay to maintain their infrastructure. And so they're losing money. So if they're paying homeowners X amount of dollars per kilowatt that they're selling back to Edison, they don't want to pay that anymore. And so there's a struggle, and there's going to be a struggle for a long time between the utility companies and the solar industry as to, who has more power. So it's going to be interesting to see.
So the incentives are getting smaller, right?
I believe it's in April that it's going to change.
I had one other question regarding the ADU and the solar panel requirement. So that's gonna determine the placement of the ADU, right? Because if you have trees that are gonna be blocking then you can't build an ADU?
Absolutely. I mean, you can build the ADU and have a solar panel, but it's not really going to do anything.
Oh, so they still
Yeah.
require you to put a solar panel even though it's gonna be ineffective?
Even though it's going to be.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Waste
Yeah.
of money.
It is a complete waste of money. Just don't tell them I said that.
And that's
Yeah.
what cities?
There are
counties.
some local cities that are doing it. LA City is requiring it, I think, already. Pasadena is requiring it already. And there's a couple of there, and this is what I meant. As the codes come down, every city does it a little bit differently. For example, LA, when the whole ADU thing came down from the state, certain cities didn't want ADUs. And so what they did is like, okay, the state is telling us that we have to allow ADUs, but our fees are gonna be $15,000 for permits to build an ADU. And so the state came back and slapped everybody in the hand and said, nope, you can't do that. Your fees have to be reasonable so that people can do it. Sometimes the state has to step back in
Got it.
and adjust things so that things keep moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah. Does this,
Want me to do it?
did I get that or did you?
I did.
Okay, all right. Let me try turning it back on here. Might be.
Question.
All right, go ahead and do it. Yes.
PCA for the large building commercial,
Uh-huh.
looks like, inspection of retrofitting or in terms of earthquake requirement, kind of,
On big
Dimensions.
buildings or on big buildings, there's certain requirements. Most big buildings like this are gonna be engineered. Depending on the type of construction, if it's a steel frame, there's not gonna be a lot of retrofitting that needs to be done. If it's an unreinforced masonry, an old brick building, there's 5 local cities, and I have them all listed in all of the ordinances on my website that are requiring that those buildings be retrofitted and by a certain date. And I can't remember offhand which ones they are right now, but they're all listed on my website.
so you do that too.
We don't do the retrofitting, but we do the inspection. Yeah. Mhm.
Compliance.
Okay, can you click on the? So, whoops. That's fine. So if you're getting into commercial real estate, what I recommend, and this is what I see. Realtors who have been in the business for a long time, who specialize in commercial, is to start building your team now. And it's not necessarily somebody that you're working with, but somebody that you're comfortable with, somebody that you trust, that comes with good recommendations, because you don't want to get into a transaction and then try to figure things out as you go along. You want to have those contacts already in place where, hey, my buyer needs, you can go ahead and click it. My buyer needs a lender for this particular type of building. And lenders specialize in different types of buildings for construction, for commercial. Inspectors, you want to have a good inspector on your contact list. Contractors, specialty contractors, handymen, things like that, that every buyer is going to need down your transaction, including a real estate attorney. Sometimes there are some complications that happen with title, that happen, all kinds of stuff. And it's good to have a good real estate attorney in your contact list that you can call or have your client call and talk to them. You don't want to have to be asking around when you're mid-transaction looking for somebody, because the buyer or your seller is going to pick up on that. And a CPA also. I put a CPA on there, but yeah, CPA. So after the inspection, you gotta remember, a commercial inspection moves a lot, or a commercial transaction moves a lot slower than a residential. I've had some transactions that I inspected that closed 4 or 5 months later. Because of lenders, because of tenants, because of a whole variety of things, funding and stuff like that. They tend to close a lot faster. So the sooner that you get the ball rolling with all of these things, the inspections, the PCAs, all of that, the sooner you can keep everything moving forward. Yeah, the reports will take a few days to get back, particularly if it's a PCA. You're looking at a week, almost 2 weeks to get that back, because there's a lot of calculations that go into all of those life expectancy things that we were talking about. Plan on a Zoom meeting or 2. And we always offer that. And that's where we separate all the big items from the small items for the client, answer all the questions for the client. How much will it cost? What is an immediate cost? What is deferred maintenance? What could be done later? And so before we go on, I want to talk, and I'm implementing this into commercial, but it's primarily residential right now. We have co-marketing that we do because we want to help you. So everything that we do is going to help you put your name in front of your client. And we're in the process of incorporating this for every transaction, commercial transaction right now as well. But this is residential. Go ahead. So when you do an inspection, your client is automatically going to be subscribed to My Home IQ, and they're going to get a 12-month subscription. And so they are going to get home maintenance, once a month, they're gonna get home maintenance tips and reminders. The email is gonna look very similar to this here. Now that you have your new home, here are, some tools that you should have in your garage. Blah, blah, and, they can read the article. There's gonna be videos, but the important thing to you here is this, right here. So if you give me your photograph, I'll put it here. All of your info is gonna be at the bottom of every email that we send out. Every reminder that goes out before and after the inspection will have your contact info. Every email that they get for the next year, once a month, is gonna have your info here.
So you send it out once a month?
Once a month, yeah. There's gonna be things like, for example, these are already happening. They're already in the system. Hey, it's you've had your house for 3 months. It's time to replace your HVAC filter. Here's what you need to do. You've had it for 6 months. It's time to replace your smoke and carbon monoxide alarm batteries. You've had it for 9 months. It's time to do a little bit of maintenance to your HVAC system. Here's what you need to do. Here's some videos. Here's some links, stuff like that. So it's going to be once a month for 12 months, but your contact info is going to show up every single time.
And what is the cost after the 12 months if you want to continue some?
At that point, if they want to continue, most of the time they're already going to be on our list, so they're going to continue getting the regular new blog post whenever I post a new blog post, and they'll continue getting it. And it's absolutely zero cost to them and zero cost to you. So there's just one way that we're trying to help keep your name in front of your client after your transaction. And the next slide, you're going to see why. According to NAR, this is recent, 2022 study. You're going to see 89% of buyers will use their agent again and recommend them to others. So you definitely want to stay in touch with your buyers after your transaction. Only 38% of them use an agent that was referred to them. That means the other 51% found an agent all by themselves. That's a huge missed opportunity if you're not keeping in contact with all of your buyers after your transaction, because they may not, the average is, it's 5 to 8 years people to move. But they can recommend you to friends and family. So the key is to keep your name in front of them. That's why I said, once a month, your name is going to pop up in front of them and your picture is going to pop up in front of them for a whole year. 67% of buyers interviewed only one real estate agent before they went with it. So if you miss the opportunity to stay in contact with them right here, this 89% who would use you again, 50 plus of them went with somebody else. And they only interviewed one person. This is low-hanging fruit. So it behooves you to keep in contact with your clients. So we're trying to help you do that. And we're incorporating that into commercial as well. So with that said, thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to
Let's check
answer any questions.
right here. Let's see.
I have a question.
Sure.
Recently sent an email regarding a fire that happened in West Covina.
Yes, that was so tragic.
What happened there?
They never told anybody what caused the fire. But sadly, it was a grandmother and her 2 grandkids who died in the fire. Most home fires can be prevented. This time of year, I go in to do apartment building inspections, and 9 out of 10 apartments don't use their heater. It's blocked by furniture, one of those wall furnaces, or they say it costs too much to run the central air. So you'll find a lot of space heaters. You'll find a space heater here. You'll find another space heater there. Those are responsible for a lot of those things. You find a lot of power strips like this. Luckily, this one only has a couple things connected to it, but I've seen power strips like that have like 8 things connected to it. And it was, most of the time, it's very preventable, and it's a tragedy. And so when I see stuff like that, I like putting out that article that has all of these prevention tips and just sending it back out. Just kind of reminding everybody what to do or what not to do.
We have some questions on chat. We're going to answer your questions now.
Very valid. Do you provide service Research for municipal records violations, we do on commercial.
This is your question, Daniel.
Daniel, hi Daniel, we do on commercial, we don't do it on residential. We found that residential became very problematic because of the contingency periods. And not all cities have their information online, which means sometimes having to take a trip clear across town. It takes a little more time, and with the market that we've had lately, where you have to remove your contingency in like 3 days, it's just not feasible. Commercial transactions, because the nature of them and they take longer, we have more time to travel out there, pull up all of the records. Are people grandfathered into the amount they get from Edison? Yes. The people who are getting paid currently from Edison, their rate is not going to drop. As far as my understanding, and I have a really good connection. If you have any questions about solar, I have a really good guy, and I can provide you the information. He can answer a whole bunch of questions. I just had lunch with him a couple of weeks ago, and he is just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to solar. What does retrofit mean? What is the process of doing so? Brick buildings, change the steel bars. What they do on unreinforced masonry brick buildings is they actually drive metal bars across the building, all the way across the building. So if you ever go to an old brick building and you look at the walls outside and they have these little metal plates every 4 feet across, that's been reinforced. They drive a metal bar from this side of the building to the other side of the building. They bolt everything in place, and that's so that the walls don't open up like this and fall out in case of an earthquake.
Does that on the exterior or interior? Or both?
It goes across the interior. They drill from the outside. They put these metal bars that go all the way across, drill from that side, and then bolt everything together and tighten it all up. And it's done like every 4 feet. Yeah. There's another kind of retrofit also for commercial, and I didn't bring this up, but thank you for reminding me, or thank you for reminding me about the question. There is, if you go down to the commercial page that I have right here, scroll down to the bottom, other resources, there is soft stories. And I don't know if you know what soft stories are for apartment buildings. During the Northridge quake, I remember driving through Van Nuys after the quake, the day after the quake, and you would see buildings that just completely collapsed. Like completely, it just pancaked over the carport that was underneath it. And that's considered a soft story. So basically, it's a carport at the ground level, supported by steel posts like this. And then the entire building was built right there. There are some requirements, some cities that require soft stories to be retrofitted now, where they put steel frames inside to prevent the building. There's a really cool video on my page there, where they did a test of a building and it starts swaying like this, and then the whole thing just collapsed because there was not enough wall space, rigid wall space underneath. Those little posts didn't hold up, and so the whole building just kind of collapses. So there are retrofit requirements for big apartment buildings like that.
Like that, they cost like this. So
Yeah.
they don't have sheet.
Yeah, and they put these huge steel beams that go like this. It's called a momentum frame, like this on there to keep the building from moving.
Well,
But yes,
if you really think about it, all the weights on top,
yes,
anything you have that's
Yeah.
on weight on top, it's gonna collapse.
it's gonna collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unlike a pyramid where it's.
Yeah. There's 5 cities, I believe it's West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, Pasadena, Los Angeles, and Santa Monica right now that have retrofit requirements for soft story buildings. So if you're representing somebody who's doing these mid level apartment buildings, they're considered commercial. That's one of the things you're gonna wanna know. That's one of the things they're gonna wanna know, because it's gonna cost them $20,000, $30,000 to retrofit.
Now, is that required before the transaction closes?
No. No, but it is required at some point after you take possession of the property. So it's definitely, if you're buying a building, or if you have a client who's buying that type of building, they're definitely gonna wanna know, because it's gonna be a pretty rude awakening if they don't.
All right, And the last question is just if you can provide them with the slides or the type 1 building, you could just send that to me and I can forward it
Yeah,
to them.
yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you, but I do recommend, a lot of the stuff that I covered today is already on my website. I nerd out, check out my blog posts. I nerd out on writing blogs. You probably already get my emails. I try heavily not to spam anybody. I send educational stuff.
I'm gonna put it in the chat box via inspection.
It's, no, oh, I'm sorry, the website, it's Villa Property Inspection.
No, your contact info,
Oh, okay, yes.
the inspections. I'll put Tony.
Mhm.
How you spell your last name?
Escamilla, Escamilla.
Phone number?
626, I'm gonna give you my personal number, 626-755-3683.
Oh, man, they can.
3683. I mean it, you can call me anytime.
24/7.
Yeah, if my wife answers, you know I'm not available. I'm kidding, but no, I do mean it. You can call me anytime. Phone calls are always free.
Residential or
Inspectors you guys have,
commercial.
I have 3 other inspectors besides myself.
and they do both commercial and
Yeah,
residential.
all of them do commercial and residential.